Back here in Charlotte, some disturbing news. This is a terrible story where a person driving a Penske truck dumped crates full of dogs at CMPD Animal Care Shelter, and so now an investigation is underway. This is the Animal Control Center on Byrum Drive, so it's a pretty big one. Our Vanessa Rufus talked to Melissa Nicely there at Animal Care Control. We took some of that interview here of what's going on there. So here it is, about 10-minute interview, Car. All right, so this is in the pretty much raw form with our Vanessa Rufus on Live Impact News, the news that impacts you on WCNC Plus.
And the reason I think, Vanessa, that nobody, like you, we have significant incidents that when something crazy happens, I will be honest with you, it happens often that people leave dogs out, not to that amount. I mean, that's a significant number, but it happens that I think people just took care of it and handled as business, right? And then once the picture went out, then the rest of us at home were like, what's going on, And so that's kind of when we checked in, and then they were like, oh yes, we're reviewing the video, because that's a standard operating procedure for us, is that if we have abandonments outside, we will look at the security footage and see if we can get, a license plate or any identifiers on any type of vehicle or the person or anything like that. So that's kind of a standard protocol for us. So that was already in the works, like I guess simultaneously when that social media post went out. So anyway, we did get the real-time crime unit. I think we talked about that in the release. We did get them to look at it and be able to see if they could identify anything better on the videos than obviously we could see, from our videos. So anyway, so when we responded back about we did email you, and we just need to know the sizes, breeds, and ages of the dog. Can you please provide that? Our kennel is at full capacity, but I do need that information before I can determine how we were able to assist. So I wanted to read all that to you because there's a couple things. We have a disaster boarding program, and that is for any type of emergency or natural disaster. So it could be that you had a major fire or you had a major flood in your home and you are not going to be able to be in your home for a while. We do offer boarding for that, emergency boarding. It's limited, and right now it's case by case because we're so full. So obviously we can't offer it like we used to 5 years ago. We just don't have the space as much. The other thing that we have is that it covers things like natural disasters and things. A tree fell on your house from a storm or things like that. So we do have that where we can offer temporary boarding for an owner. And in this case, we would have had a number of options to look at, because we could have said, okay, well, he wants to surrender them. So that means they're going to become our property right away. And we could reach out to our foster network. We could reach out to some of the boarding kennels that we partner with and things like that to see if we could arrange either some of our dogs going there or our dogs that we already had, going elsewhere to make room for these 9 dogs, or could we arrange these 9 dogs to go into foster and things like that. So normally on a situation, we would be able to offer those types of things possibly, or, call a boarding facility and say, hey, I've done that actually before for a person who had a stroke and was in the hospital, and an elderly neighbor was trying to help take care of his very large, strong dog. And someone knew me and they called and said, is there anything you can do? And I arranged with a boarding facility to give him 6 weeks of comped boarding. And so we are able to leverage our connections and the wonderful partners that we have in the community. So that is kind of where we would have gone with that whole email thing, but he never responded back. And instead, we all of a sudden realized that the security footage is showing a Penske truck, and he mentioned a Penske truck. And so we were getting all those details together, and then also, of course, getting details to how we could actually go and find this person now. The hardship is that now, I mean, these animals are going to have to wait a stray period right? Whereas if he had owner surrendered them over, we could have already begun taking steps to like maybe help place them and things like that. So it's tragic the way it happened. Um, so in a way, we sort of did know about the animals, but we didn't know they were connected at all until the Penske truck information came about. And so then all of that is being investigated, and we've gotten other tips from different people along the way, and all of those are being investigated. We have a senior officer that is assigned to this, and he is actually working a couple of different leads that we've had from people who have contacted us or shared information. And so all of that is still going on. So we don't have it closed out. It's not final. I can't tell you that this is all resolved. What I can tell you is that the dogs are safe now. And that's the main worry, is that now they're here, they're being cared for, they've got all of the food they need, they've got all the medications they need, and that sort of thing. So they're being well taken care of. And now it's just, figuring out where we go from here, if we can find the person and sort all that stuff out and hear that person's side of the story. And then as far as like charges and that sort of thing goes, we can't really say until we get all of that information in totality and see where it goes from there. But technically, wasn't an abandonment. It was.
I feel like the other issue, when you do have a dog that's just dropped off with no explanation about the dog, is you don't know anything about their medical history. You don't really know anything about behaviorally. So you were talking about, the potential of maybe you could have placed these dogs directly in a foster home, but now you don't have any information to tell a foster, like, is
We
this
don't.
dog good with other dogs and all of that?
It's the same, as if like when the strays come in, we don't have a lot of information about them. And so it is hard to put a stray right into foster. And I think that that's why, I don't want to speak out of turn, but I know my experience fostering is, I think it's nice to, like, especially if you're a volunteer here and that sort of thing, you get a little bit of information based on what we've seen. Maybe they've gone on a staycation, or maybe they've walked with a volunteer here, and you're going to get all those notes and everything. So you will have a better idea of what you're taking home. Whereas you're spot on, like, not knowing anything about an animal that is dropped off. We don't know anything about it. And I do believe that these animals will be assessed for temperament and things like that, these dogs. And sorry, I'm used to trying to say animals to be covering everything fairly. But I do, I'm pretty sure that these dogs will be assessed at the point that we are able to move forth and hopefully find positive outcomes for them.
I know you mentioned the fact that it is not uncommon, sadly, to have an animal dumped outside a shelter during off hours. I remember finding 2 puppies in a bush one day on a holiday. Actually, the shelter was closed, so I don't even know if someone, staff weren't there,
Right.
that would have been a situation. But I feel like it does seem a little extreme to have that many dogs dumped like that outside the shelter.
It is. It's definitely not something that's common. The closest number to it is probably during kitten season, where somebody might leave a box of a litter of kittens. But to have 9 dogs dropped off in kennels, it is. It's very extreme. And usually what we see, it's just like one. Earlier in the week, we had one that was abandoned. Somebody was upset that they couldn't owner surrender on the spot, and so they left, and they left the dog behind in the parking lot. So,
I mean, can you talk about the difficulty that the shelter is, kind of put in a tough spot just because of the capacity and how it's been? I mean, there are so many services that the shelter provides, like you talked about, the disaster assistance. And I know that there are other special cases where you will take someone's dog if they're trying to get out of a tough situation.
Right.
but it becomes tougher and tougher to do that when you are so full all the time.
Yeah, ultimately, it's really sacrificing those services that are so, so important to different situations where people are having different types of emergencies and things like that. And it's very sad that you have to turn away, say somebody that has had a house fire and has 3 dogs, and we just unfortunately don't have the room and the luxury of having 6 weeks of 3 kennels open to house dogs like that. And like I said, we do our best to try to find other partners that may be willing to help out with that. And thank goodness we have a lot of great partners with boarding facilities around the community who do help us, even with our foster dogs and things like that. And so we're lucky that we have another way, but they also are full and they are also businesses, and so I can't imagine that one of them could give up 3 spots or 9 spots for 6 weeks, for somebody to be able to get back in their home. So yeah, it makes it really tough. It makes it tough that the special programs that we're allowed to help with and we want to have there for the community when they're in their time of need, having a full shelter really handcuffs us from being able to help those people.